The following books, stories, plays, poems, or limericks you will hear on Right Time Radio are the intellectual property of the writers and authors mentioned. Any copying, recording, or reproduction of this work is strictly prohibited without the express written consent of the author. The content of this show is the individual expression of the author and does not necessarily reflect the views of the owner of this radio station.
It's the right time for Right Time Radio. I'm Tom Bruno.
Introduce myself here. I'm Ken Ray.
In a second. Well, welcome back to Right Time Radio every Friday morning at 10 o'clock. With us today, we have a very special guest, very interesting guest. He's done a lot of things in his life. His name is Kenneth Ray. Say hi, Ken.
Hi.
I thought you had Edward Asner here.
You know, I get that all the time. People tell me that constantly, and I don't think I look anything like them. I'm certainly not as near as well known as he is.
No, but yeah, let's start with that. You are kind of behind the scenes. You've been a ghostwriter for years, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. So does that mean
we can't talk about that.
The day after Halloween? We can talk about him being a ghostwriter.
Well, yeah, we can do
what
that.
What can you not tell us?
I can't tell you anything.
That was interesting.
With regard to titles or who or who you do it for, because when you ghostwrite for a project or contract, right, you sell your work and then you sign a non-disclosure agreement.
Right.
You'll never say who or what you did.
So J.K. Rowling, she didn't really write those books, those Harry Potter books. It was you?
No.
Louis L'Amour.
If it was, I wouldn't tell you it was.
Of course you couldn't tell us.
I actually met him one time at Louis L'Amour.
Yeah.
He built that town down at Shaklo, down in the Four Corners area. He's a very, very interesting individual.
Well, that's the great thing about Fremont County. We've got a lot of interesting
We do have
individuals.
a lot of and one of them is Kenneth Ray, because he's extremely interesting.
Yeah. So one of the things we're gonna ask you a few things here, and I'll read your bio here in a minute, and then Ken's gonna read from a book called
Orphan Bride.
Orphan Bride. Thank you. And he is the author of the month down at the Kaleidoscope today. So you can actually meet him. We'll remind you that at the end of the show. But you're going to love this little romance, this excerpt of the romance novel from The Orphan Bride. But Ken, how many kids do you have?
Well, my wife and I raised our three natural children and 107 foster kids.
Oh, my.
Wow. Yes. I told you it was
Now, when
fascinating.
you got to around 95, 96, were you going, you might as well shoot for 100, make some sort of record here?
We didn't know how many there were until we retired. Then we counted them up.
Uh-huh.
And we didn't realize there were that many. Some we had for just a few days, and some of them we had for years. I mean, it just varied. But we had a group home.
And
we worked for group homes.
I have three, and I can't imagine four.
Well, I had four plus all the neighborhood kids that came with my four, so I have an idea what it's like, but no, I can't imagine.
That's kind of the same concept.
I had one that was like having 10, though.
Yeah.
We had a couple that was like having 10.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time in the principal's office.
Yeah.
In fact,
So did I. When I was
For a
in
very
grade school.
different reason.
I was forever down there because there was one, when you've
One
got,
or the other was...
you've got, that many boys in the high school, and they're this kind of individual, they always want attention. So positive or negative, either one, they'll accept.
Right.
And so they spend a good deal of time in some kind of administrative issue.
Well, that gives you a plethora of experience to draw from. And a very interesting vocabulary you'll find in this book, I think. Let me just read part of your bio, too.
Tell us about
And you know, Ken, you're a retired vet. What service were you in, first of all?
I was in the Army.
Okay. We might talk about that at the end of the show, too. He spent a lot of time of his life driving over-the-road trucks. And boredom is the driving force that prompted him to start putting his stories from his head down onto the paper. And at first it was just a hobby, but then his wife encouraged him to get some of them published. So that is what's happening now. He's decided to get some of these published, and after a lot of effort, he's gotten someone to look at his work, and he decided to self-publish. So you can find his books on Amazon. Did you say Barnes & Noble also,
Yeah,
Ken? Yep. And that was the right way to get people to read the books. They're really the story we heard during rehearsal today is really exciting and very unusual. I wouldn't have placed this kind of romance novel, 1815, I think is when it's set, with this gentleman sitting next to us here.
Right, it's called Renaissance, Tom. People who read that know what that means.
A lot of times they call it Regency.
You're right.
So anyway, he's currently got 2 other books in the process of getting published. They live here in Canyon City. Of course, this is Right Time Radio, so we try to get local authors produced locally with local voice actors. And this time we've got the author reading his own work. We love it when that happens too. Ken is now in retirement and enjoying the being able to do all the things that come with that kind of time. He spent quite a few years working in foster care, which we've just talked about. And his last 3 boys graduated from high school in 2015. And since they're done raising children, they retired from that as well, and now he's writing books. So if you got any questions, you can even call into the show. What's the number, Carrie?
275-1400.
Thanks, Carrie. Mm-hmm. And now, Ken, if you'd grace us with this excerpt from The Orphan Bride.
I will try. Pardon me when I stumble. Chapter 1. England, May 1815. Emmeline McCall sat on her narrow bed and stared at the letter in her hand. She didn't focus on the words as she'd read it many times. It held her entire future and her history. At least she hoped that it would provide both. Her eyes drifted around the room. Life as she knew was basically contained within the walls of the building that held this room. But today, on her 19th birthday, everything she knew anything about was going to disappear. When she walked out of this room, her life would change forever. Yesterday, she'd been summoned from the kitchen where she worked to the office of the headmistress. There she was informed that her support would cease and she was to leave the orphanage. She was handed an envelope from a solicitor in London, and it was a letter informing her that she was to come by coach to London and report to his office to receive her inheritance and the funding to begin her new life independent of the orphanage. Also, inside the envelope was 100 pounds and 10-pound notes, and 100 pounds was a fortune to her. She'd never even held more than a few shillings up until that moment. The letter said that she would use the money for her travel and other expenses until she arrived in London. As she sat there on the bed where she had slept for most of her life, she pondered what the coming days held for her. Was she anxious? Of course. Was she excited? More than. Was she frightened? More than a little. But most of all, she was confused. If someone knew of her existence, why hadn't she known of them before this? Why had she been left on the doorstep of this orphanage all those years ago? And why hadn't they, whoever they were, not kept her or come for her before now? Her mind was full of questions, and by all accounts, at least some of these answers were in London, 8 days away by post coach. A coach that was leaving in 1 hour from now. So if she was going to be on it, she'd best get a move on. She needed to get up, say her goodbyes, walk down to the post again, and give up the ticket that had also been in the envelope. There were not many that she needed to say farewell to. But the women that worked in the orphanage were people who, none of the women who worked in the orphanage were people that she was close to or fond of. They did their jobs and went home to their families. Yes, she was on good terms with some of the other girls, but she never really developed a strong friendship with anyone in particular. In short, there were few, if any, that would miss her. The only person that had been here as long as she had was a headmistress. She had never developed any kind of attachment to the woman simply because Mrs. Ames wasn't that kind of person, the kind of person that allowed such. With a huge sigh, Emily stood, reached down, picked up her portemane, It was the only thing that she owned that had arrived with her. It held her meager belongings, a couple of dresses, some unmentionables, and her Bible. Walking to the door, she paused for one last look and pulled the door open. Walking through it and out into the future, whatever that held for her. Descending the stairs, she walked a few steps to the door of the headmistress's office. She knocked and was bade to enter. She opened the door and stepped in. Mrs. Ames looked up from the paper she seemed to be working on. Her stern look softened the smallest bit, and she said, "So you're ready to leave?" "Yes, I am. I thought I should at least inform you. Emmeline, we've never been close, but I've watched you grow into a very good young woman. What lies before you is a great adventure. I hope fate will be kinder to you than it has been to this point. Please send a letter to let me know that you are safe when you are settled. Be careful to always be true to yourself and the fact that you are an honorable young woman. Trust no one until you are sure of their intent and integrity. I wish you all the best in the world, all the best the world has to offer. Good luck and farewell."
This is Right Time Radio, and we will be back with more of Orphan Bride by Kenneth Ray after these messages.
Tune in weekdays to Star Country in the 2 o'clock hour for the Senior Minute. Useful whether you are a senior or not. These minute segments are meant to improve your life and lifestyle. Messages range from health and wellness to practical and positive solutions. All brought to you each week by Skyline Ridge Nursing and Rehabilitation Center. Getting to know and treat our seniors individually and as independently as possible. Call for more information at 275-0665.
Human beings have a frightening capacity for both good and evil. The different ways we relate to strangers reveal the contradiction of being human. Dr. Michael Ziegler explores this human contradiction and how God resolves it in a message titled Stranger Danger, this week on The Lutheran Hour.
The Lutheran Hour is brought to you by St. John's Lutheran Church in Canyon City. Listen Sunday mornings at 8 a.m. here on 1400 KRLN.
Star Country 104.5 FM, your home for a better variety of country and more high school sports. Proud to present live coverage of high school football. And this Friday night's lights will shine bright on Citizen Stadium. To the end zone. Where the Canyon City Tigers play host to the Mitchell Marauders. Hi, this is J.J. Valentine. Join myself along with Tracy Rink for all the exciting action. Our Legacy Bank pregame show gets underway at 6:30. We'll kick it off at 7. Friday Night Lights live at Network1Sports.com and Star Country 104.5 FM.
KRLN weather, sunny but continued cool today. East winds at 10 this afternoon. The high today around 43. Mostly cloudy this evening, then skies clearing overnight. Those dropping into the teens. Sunny and warmer tomorrow, the high around 56. 21 was our low this morning after a high of 55 yesterday. 40 degrees currently at the Weather Center.
Talk Radio 1400 KRLN.
We are back with more of Right Time Radio. We want to encourage you to join us every Friday at 10 o'clock. And we also want to thank Fremont Regional Hospice for sponsoring us and letting us be here every Friday at 10 o'clock. So now we're going to go back to Orphan Bride by Kenneth Ray, and he's going to read some more of this excerpt.
Thank you for those kind words. They're the first I have received during my stay here. I will heed your sage advice and promise to write when I'm situated. Goodbye, Mrs. Ames. That said, she turned and left the office. Out in the hall at the door, several girls near her age stood with two matrons. They gave her choruses of goodbyes and well wishes. There were no tears, and she had none to shed for them. Leaving was simply that. She was one less, and that was it. No one would actually miss her, and she would not miss being here. As she walked down the road towards the coaching end, she began to assess what attributes she had to contribute to her future. She had seen her reflection often enough to know that she's no particular beauty. her hair was her best asset or defect, depending on whose opinion you listened to. It was red, hip-length flow of glossy, sun-kissed, tightened red hair, unlike any other she'd ever seen. It had streaks of gold and yellow in the summertime, but mostly it was just red. She was not short, but not tall either. Green eyes and a pert nose made what was up a somewhat pleasing face if she had reason to smile. So much for how I looked, she thought. What could I do if I have to work for my keep? I do not sing very well, and I only played the pianoforte very little. So music is out. I do not make friends easily. The proof of that is that I have none, so I would make a poor companion. I do not have the mind to teach, so a governess is not a likely choice. What do I do well? I can cook, but I really don't like to. The only thing I like to do is oversee things like planting the kitchen garden or keeping the kitchen books. I like numbers, but there are not many, if any, jobs for women in those fields. I can sew well enough, but gads, that would be so stifling. My best hope is at the solicitor's office will allow me to live in some sort of cottage and manage my own income to see me through. What of marriage? I have no idea what that might entail, and at this point, I doubt that it's in my future. I've had very little to do with men, so I can see no reason for me to hope that a charming prince might come along and take me as wife. I have no idea how to have or if I would want children of my own. I like the little ones, but they are troublesome at times, and I'm not really good at soothing them when they're upset and crying. After all this, it would seem that I'm not at all well prepared to face the hard, cruel world. My best hope is the solicitor. My best hope is the solicitor. I hate to have all my eggs in one apron, but the truth is, that is what the facts are. As she arrived at the coaching inn, the post coach could be seen in the distance. Her adventure was about to begin. Seating herself on a convenient bench, she watched the coach approach. In a matter of minutes, she would be gone from the world she had known and off into whatever was beyond the horizon. Chapter 2. Edward Ligmont, 5th Viscount Scarmeyer, sat behind a huge mahogany desk in the study that all his antecedents had used. He still thought of the desk and the study that it housed as his father's. He had only been the heir for 7 months. The news of the murder of his parents and his older brother had taken 6 weeks to reach him at his business in India. When a letter from his grandmother arrived, he expected to read a long, newsy letter full of the latest family news and quite a bit of society's on date. Who was marrying whom, and what was the season's latest scandal? The last thing he expected to read was the heart-stopping summons to return to London and take up the duties of the family estates because his parents and his brother were dead, shot to death by highwaymen for the price of their purses and the jewelry they were wearing. He had secured the services of a good manager and packed his belongings along with his trusted valet and bodyguard, Istall. He booked the passage on the next ship bound for England. His grandmother's letter had held little in the way of detail as to what had actually happened. She had simply said that his family members had been murdered and robbed as they were returning from the family estates near Cambridge. The fact that their demise was so brutal left him more than a little skeptical. There was more to this than was actually known at this time, but he intended to get the real answers. He was going to find out who did this and why. For highwaymen to murder their victim was almost unheard of. They robbed their targets and went on their merry way. To kill a member of the peerage was even less common because the outcry and subsequent effort to find out who was responsible was not worth the risk. Such a crime always ends with the perpetrator being hung. Edward felt in his very marrow that there was a great deal more to this than was known, and he was going to find out who did this and see them hang. He was convinced that there was a more sinister reason for his family's death than just robbery or even self-defense. He did know his father and brother would have been armed on this journey, and they would have put up a fight. That fact might go some distance towards explaining the shootings, but he still felt that they were killed for some other reason than they appeared on the surface. What that reason was, he had no idea, since he had been gone out of the country for nearly 10 years. He was unaware if his father and his brother had any dangerous enemies, but he intended to find out. He would not rest easy until the persons who did this outrage were hanged, including anyone that might have put the perpetrators up to the act. He felt sure that someone had paid for it and was just as guilty as the ones that pulled the triggers. It would have cost a great deal to hire men willing to risk the gallows for killing members of the Tone. They had to know that this was something that would not pass without serious quest for their arrest. His family members were not street people from Spitalfield or the docks. Not that should make a difference, but it did. He already hired a team of O Street runners to work on finding out who did this, and he spent long nights over his father's papers searching for clues. Somehow he felt that the answers he sought were in this room. Someone had reason to do this, and the why was hidden in the papers and records his father kept. He was sure of it. Unfortunately, his father's record-keeping was very extensive and cryptic. But he would spend whatever time and money it took to unravel this mystery. The financial books from each of the estates were laid out on the desk, and with the help of the family steward, who was expected to join him shortly, he intended to go through every entry line by line, and book by book, until he uncovered the information he sought. A soft knock on the study door caused him to look up. His younger sister was standing there with a look of concern on her face. Sarah was 10 years younger than he was. She was to have had her come out this season, but now the whole household was in mourning. The unrelieved black she wore declared that fact. Sarah was the youngest of his siblings and now the only survivor of his immediate family. He hated to think that she would also have been among the dead if the fate hadn't taken a hand to cause her to stay in London instead of going to Scarmire with the rest of the family. She had been ill when the trip had come up and stayed behind with her grandmother to recover. Since she was to have taken her bow to the Queen when the season had started, she had been busy with fittings and shopping, and a sudden shower had caught her and her mother far enough away from the coach to get soaked to the skin, and she had taken a chill. The resulting sickness had kept her bedridden for the first week after her parents had gone north. The Dowager Countess had stayed at the family mansion to see to her care and recovery while the others had gone on the fateful trip. Edward, you did not eat breakfast, and it's nearly 1:00. I've rung for tea and a cold lunch for the two of us, and I intend to stay here until you eat something. I will not stand by and watch you work yourself into ill health working on those account books. Besides, I am in need of some of your company. It's very lonely here in this house now. Please take a bit of time to share a meal with me and let me enjoy some conversation with you. Mr. Sheldon sent a note explaining that he would be delayed for a time, and that will leave a window for me to have some of your company. One of the maids carried in a tray and placed it on a low table near the center of the room. The comfortable chairs on either side there for that purpose. Please mark your place where you're working and join me. I'll pour while you do that. Edward felt the whack of guilt. He'd been neglecting it to comfort Sarah, and she was hurting far worse than he was. He placed the paperwork on the book he had opened and stood. He walked over to Sarah and kissed her on the cheek. I'm a poor excuse for a brother to have forced you to go to such lengths just to have some of my time. I'm sorry, I have no excuse for failing to be available to you. In the future, feel free to interrupt me whenever you have need of me, for whatever reason. Sarah had been in the schoolroom, and he had gone off to make his way in the world. And since she was so young, they were not really close when he left. But that changed now. Since the tragedy, they had been growing closer by the day, and she was a delight. Even in her mourning and grief, she was lovely. She had a very sweet disposition. So for her to ask for a bit of his time was no inconvenience at all. In the short time they'd been living together, he had developed a deep affection for her and a huge sense of protectiveness. As he joined her for tea and sandwiches she had prepared, he suggested, after we had finished here, perhaps we would enjoy a walk or a carriage ride in Hyde Park. We could even stop for an icy if you would like. Oh, Edward, that would be so very kind of you. I admit to being completely bored with nothing to do but read and sew. I know that you're very busy and I should not bother you, but I'm so very lonely. I should be smothered with guilt for interrupting you, but I confess I am not. You must not feel guilty. I am at your disposal whenever you need me. All you need to do is make me aware of your request. I am fully conscious of your loss and the fact that you were preparing for your future when all this happened. So now we only have each other. Know that one of my biggest concerns is your happiness and well-being, such as it can be given our circumstances. You are truly a blessing to me, Edward, and I have fallen completely in love with you. I know I should love you because you are my brother, but until your return, you were a somewhat vague memory. But now you have proven to be a most excellent brother, and if we were not family, I would set my cap for you. I am glad you find me an excellent brother, but I would ask that you not sing my praises to your friends. I would not wish for the young ladies of your acquaintance to take notice of me and decide that I'm husband material. Oh, but you would make a most wonderful husband. And be warned that as soon as I'm out of mourning, I intend to go in search for the perfect woman for your countess. My fondest wish is for the both of us to find someone to love that will allow us to be happy and fulfilled like our parents were. You do know that their marriage was one of those rare matches that was also a love match. Mother told me many times that when her father told her who he had chosen for her husband, she was overjoyed. She said that she had been in love with your father for quite a while before he approached her father to ask to court her. They had a short courtship and were married shortly after the end of her first season. Eden came along just a few weeks short of a year. Then you were born only 2 years after him. I must have been quite a surprise arriving 10 years after you.
Thank you, Kenneth Ray. We'll be right back with more Right Time Radio after these messages.
Have you talked to your family about the medical care you'd like to receive when facing a serious illness? Advanced Care Planning can help you talk about what kind of care is most important to you. Fremont Regional Hospice can help you get that care. To learn more about what hospice can do for you, contact Fremont Regional Hospice at 719-275-4315 or stop by 1439 Main Street in Canyon City. Fremont Regional Hospice, your hometown hospice.
Come taste and see live demonstrations of plant-based gourmet meals at the upcoming Plant Seminar, where you will discover how to lose weight, fight cancer, and heart disease with all these easy, tasty meals. This free two-part series will be on Saturday, November 9th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. and Sunday, November 10th from 10 to 11:30 at the Canyon City Seventh-day Adventist Church located at 3180 East Main Street. To register and find out more, please call 719-315-2198. That's 719-315-2198.
It's called a smartphone for a good reason. With DriveWise on the Allstate app, your smartphone can help you get smarter about driving safer. DriveWise gives you real-time driving feedback, giving you the power to lower your insurance cost. In fact, safe drivers can save 40% or more. Connect and save with DriveWise. You're in good hands.
Download the Allstate app today. Savings may vary by state and driving behavior, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Use of Allstate Mobile with activation of DriveWise required. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Prescription products require an online physician consultation and are only available if the physician determines a prescription is appropriate. Subscription required. See website for full details and important safety information.
Hey guys, good news. The outrageously expensive little blue pill is now generic, which means you can get the prescription medication to treat ED at affordable prices. And Hims makes it extra affordable. And right now, get your first online visit totally free when you go to 4hims.com/joy. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/joy. FORHIMS.com/joy.
You are back with Right Time Radio, and we are so enjoying this story, and we're going to continue listening to it. Read to you by the author himself. It is The Orphan Bride by Kenneth Ray. Take it away, Kenneth.
I remember the day Mama told Eldon and I that you were expected. We had no idea why they were so excited. We'd been around our cousins by then, and we were sure we didn't need a new baby in our house. I tried to get them to buy me a pony instead. I did get a pony, but they got you as well. The ideal for everyone, I suppose, but a puppy would have been less noisy. It wouldn't have caused Ellen and I to stay in our rooms on stormy nights. You must have resented me a great deal. No. You were more of a novelty than a reason for resentment. You were a girl. And 10-year-old boys do not have a lot of use for girls. Ella and I would stand beside your crib and stare at you. After a while, we decided that Mama and Papa should take you back and trade you for a brother. We couldn't see the way for you to play soldiers or climb trees or the like. A brother definitely would have been better. But things being as they are, I'm very glad they didn't honor our request. You are truly a joy to behold, and I have grown to love you without reserve. That is, without a doubt, the most wonderful thing anyone ever said to me. I don't know how it is possible for you to be dearer to me than you were just minutes ago, but you are. You need not say anything more like that is so nice as I would turn into a watering pot. What a wonderful person you are, the best brother imaginable. Stop. You'll cause my head to swell to where I'll need to buy a new set of hats. Looking down, he saw that they'd eaten all the sandwiches and biscuits off the tray. Are you ready for a stroll, or would you prefer to ride in a carriage? Well, I should think a ride in a carriage would be most pleasant. I'll just freshen up while the carriage is being brought around. Splendid. I'll call for the carriage and meet you in the foyer. She bounced up and gave everyone a kiss on the cheek, and I'll hurry. I want to spend as much time with you as possible without keeping you from your important work. The day was a rare one. The sun was out in a cloudless sky, and a gentle breeze tickled the leaves on the trees. The park was crowded with people enjoying the fine day. Several ladies recognized Sarah and stopped them to convey condolences and chat a bit. Some used the opportunity to get introduced to the new Viscount and to flirt a little. Because they were still in mourning, the meeting had to be kept within established social boundaries, but the fact that a perfectly eligible, wealthy bachelor was there to impress, the young ladies did their best to make the best of that opportunity. Edward did his best to be polite but distant. He was definitely not interested at this time in showing any interest in any of Sarah's acquaintances. He did, however, notice one young lady sitting by herself on a bench, feeding bits of bread to pigeons. She had the look of a lost soul. She looked neither right nor left, but seemed to be carrying on a lively conversation with herself, with the odd comment to the birds. He noticed her dress was very plain and rumpled, as if she'd been traveling. Her bonnet was also plain and simple. It looked as if she'd made it herself. He supposed that she was someone's governess or paid companion, spending her day off in the park enjoying the good weather. Yet something about her made that assumption not fit. While Sarah chatted with her friends, he watched her. When the bread was all fed to the pigeons, she picked up the paper that had been on the seat beside her. He could tell that she was perusing the advertisements. He wondered if she was job hunting. When there was a brief lull in the visiting, he asked Sarah, "Do you know that young lady?" Sarah looked at Emmeline. "No, I don't believe I do." After a moment, she added, "She looks lost." That was my impression as well. For some unexplainable reason, I feel impressed to inquire if she's in need of assistance. I have the oddest feeling about her. Do not ask me why, as I have no answer. Sarah asked, "Would you like me to approach her?" I'm not sure that is a good idea, but I can't help but feel as if we should. Good. Those are my feelings exactly. I will do just that. Please wait here while I see if I can engage her in a conversation. That said, she hopped down out of the carriage and made her way over to where the young lady sat. Please forgive my forwardness, but my brother and I couldn't help but notice you feeding the birds. We also noticed you seem to be somewhat at a loss. Is there any way we might assist you? Emily looked into the lovely face of a young woman of a similar age. She was obviously gentle bred, but she gave out an aura of a genuine sweetness that was easy to recognize. She decided to be honest and tell this woman what her dilemma was. At the risk of imposing on you, I would tell that I am in fact lost. I only arrived in London today, and I need to find this solicitor's office, but I have no idea how to go about doing that. May I know the address you seek? Yes, I would be most grateful if you could direct me. That said, she opened a small drawstring purse and handed over the solicitor's card. It read, Howard Bromley, solicitor, 1105 Bond Street, London. Sarah gave out a small gasp. I know this man. He's one of my father's solicitors. She turned towards the carriage and called to Edward, motioning for him to come. Seeing Sarah summoned, he called to Estelle to tend the horses, and he dismounted the carriage. While Edward was tending the carriage, he made his way over to the bench, and Sarah sat down and said, Edward is my brother. He's a Viscount, but the title is so new to him that he's not had time to get snooty about it. He's actually a very nice man, but do not let on that I said so, as he will get the big head about it. By the by, my name is Sarah Ligmont. Emily snorted and covered her mouth to stifle a smile. For some reason, she had taken an instant liking of Sarah. When she regained her composure, she said, I won't, and my name is Emily McConnell, but I'm known as Emma. Edward bowed as he arrived at the bench and said, Ladies, Edward, please allow me to introduce you to my newest friend, Miss Emmeline McConnell. Emma, this is my brother, the Viscount Scarmar, Edward Ligmont. Emma nodded and said, My lord. Edward smiled and took her hand, brushed an air kiss over her knuckles and said, Oh, come now. I just like all that my lord stuff. If you will, please use Edward. I shall call you Emma. That would seem right if we were to be friends. Oh, I could not, my lord. We're just met this moment, and I'm a nobody, and you're a Viscount. Oh, posh. He's Edward, I'm Sarah, and you are Emma. I declare us friends as of this minute.
All right. Thank you so much, Ken. Want to remind you that Ken's going to be appearing at the Kaleidoscope on the corner of, I think it's 6th and Main Street in Canyon City today at 5 o'clock. Is that right, Ken?
Yeah. For First Friday, huh?
For First Friday at the Kaleidoscope. Let's take a break and we'll get back and talk to Ken a little bit about how he got into this writing business.
And you're keeping it covered.
Brad, I can help with coverages. Man-to-man coverage, zone coverage, combo coverage.
I don't know, Peyton. I was thinking the types of coverages that your Nationwide agent offers.
Oh, like home, auto, business, life, farm, boat, your tour bus.
Products availability varies by state, agent, and other factors. Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company, Columbus, Ohio.
For all your many sides, there's Nationwide. Call your local Assurance Partners agent at 275-7421 today or visit them downtown at 408 Main Street.
Royal Gorge Radio's AM 1400 KRLN and Star Country 104.5 FM. And we, along with Fremont and Royal Gorge area businesses, proudly present our Customer Appreciation Day we call Money Day.
Hey y'all, this is Chelsea Lynn inviting you to join me every Tuesday afternoon at 2:30 for your chance to win your share of free money.
That's right, a little cold hard cash could be yours. To win, simply be registered and present at one of these Money Day store locations.
Coyote Coffee Den in the Medical Building location, 1338 Fay Avenue, Building D. Dryden's, appliances, mattresses, and furniture, 1001 Main Street, Canyon City. And the Trading Corner, 700 Shoup Drive, Florence.
So visit a Money Day store location, pick up a registration card, fill it out, and get it back to Royal Gorge Radio. Or go online at RoyalGorgeRadio.com to find out more. Then every Tuesday afternoon at 2:30, be at a Money Day store location. Listen for your name, hear your name, and call 276-0331 within 60 seconds to claim your cash. From Fremont County and Royal Gorge area businesses, AM 1400 KRLN and Star Country 104.5.
KRLN weather, sunny but continued cool today. The high around 43. Mostly cloudy this evening, then skies clearing overnight with lows dropping into the teens. Sunny and warmer tomorrow, the high around 56. 55 was our high yesterday. That was the state high here in Canyon City. Our low this morning, 21. Now at the Weather Center, 41 degrees.
Talk Radio 1400, KRLN.
We are back with Right Time Radio, and we'd still like to thank Fremont Regional Hospice. We really appreciate you guys sponsoring our show, and if you have need of such things, we hope that you will go to them and partake of their services. They're awesome people.
They sure are.
We are here in our studio today with a very fascinating local author. His name is Kenneth Ray. He just read us an excerpt of his first book that he published under his name, and I say that because he used to be a ghostwriter, which we're going to talk about a little bit too. The name of this book is Orphan Bride. Where did you get the idea for this story?
Out of my head.
Out of your head?
I just
so it's not based on something you had?
No,
okay.
it's just, I don't know. One day I sat down and I was thinking about my mother. My mother was an orphan.
Uh-huh.
And I just got to thinking about the odd way she met my dad, and Orphan Bride was born.
Cool.
And I assume so we just got this teaser from this reading. I assume that there's some unusual thing about her background, her parentage. Is that you don't have to give that away.
Yeah, don't
really
spoil the plot, but yeah something's going to happen.
It's considered a Regency romance, or you called it what?
I called it Regency.
Yeah,
He called it Renaissance.
Renaissance.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's not really Renaissance because that's the knights and that deal, but in my mind, this is more the average
early 1800s.
This is the people that were involved with the society of England in that time frame, and it's the most important thing in their life was keeping in good stead with the tone or the
ton.
Society.
Now, is that what you said?
That's what they call it.
Yeah. Now, what does that mean? I
Well, it means society.
You say that in here.
It means high society. That's what it means.
All right. Okay. Cool.
And
but not all of your books are in that same time period. It looks like the next one that you've written, and you've already written it, is called Racing Hearts. And what's that about?
Well, it's actually a true story about a girl I knew. My wife and I had race horses, and all the horses in the book we actually owned or had a connection to. And
it's a good title, Racing Hearts. A good.
Well, yeah,
but
unfortunately, there's probably 20 Racing Hearts out there.
Well, that happens. No big.
I thought about changing the title, and I thought, who cares?
Yeah, and our book.
The title's only 2 words of the whole deal, but it's actually a story about a young girl that was cleaning stalls at a racetrack, and she caught the eye of a man who owned some good race horses, and she went to work for him. They ended up starting up a relationship, and it's quite a story.
The rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history. But in the meantime, like all stories, everybody's life, they have ups and downs. Things occur.
Of course.
That create problems for them. And, In order for it to be for you to read to turn the page, it has to be a reason.
Orphan Bride is already in paperback. You were reading from the paperback. And are you going to have those for sale at Kaleidoscope this afternoon?
Actually, I'll have both books.
Orphan Bride and Racing Hearts?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Cool.
Excellent. Right. That's good to hear.
And the third one's in editing now. It's going to go be printed.
I was just going to ask you, you plan to write more? That's awesome.
I have 11 manuscripts
He has a lot
that need to be transcribed from the yellow legal pads that I wrote them on onto a computer, a thumb drive, so I can send it to the printer.
Awesome.
But I never thought that I would ever do anything on it. I just wrote them as a hobby, just something to fill up my day.
So you being this famous author here.
I'm about as famous as...
Well, it sounds like actually, you're just giving us these teasers about the writers that you've written for in the past. Mm-hmm. That you kind of are famous, nobody knows about you.
Yeah, I don't want to. I get sued if they
There's
did.
a paradox in there.
But you're going to be available for signing these books tonight.
That's what I'm going to ask.
Yeah.
I sign all the books I sell.
And actually,
Good.
I don't usually get out there to Kaleidoscope for this, but I will be there because Papa's is providing the hors d'oeuvres. So we're going to have some Southwest sausage pizza out
Pizza
there.
hors d'oeuvres.
Yeah, pizza hors d'oeuvres.
That means you cut the pizza up in small pieces.
Yeah, that's right. How much does it cost to go to these Kaleidoscope events?
I think it's free.
Free.
It's free.
Yeah.
It's First Friday, right?
All it costs you is the park and walk in.
And shoe leather.
And parking is
shoe
free.
leather, yeah.
Parking is free, shoe leather is cheap. All right. And I got to ask you, gentlemen here, you've got great, you know this 19th century England really well. How in the world did you get started writing romances?
They are the foundation for modern book sales. Most of the books in America today are bought by ladies. And
he did his research.
You bet. And if they, and they read the whole gamut of things, depending on the person's background and likes and dislikes or whatever. But they buy the books. And when I was looking into this, I found out that 47% of all the books bought were bought for women's personal use. They buy books for kids and whatever else, but they buy for themselves to read. And out of that, a pretty good percentage of it, I misspoke, it's 67% of the books are bought by women, and 47 and some kind of a decimal number percent of them are romance novels.
Right.
And as a result, that's where the market is. And if you're going to do it, you might as well do it and make some money.
So I think us guys could probably learn something from that. Women are starved for romance.
Well, you can read the book. You find out. Yeah.
And Ken, you seem like kind of a romantic yourself.
I think he is.
Based on some of the comments that you made before we started.
How long have you been married?
53 years.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great.
I was engaged to my lovely wife about 10 hours after I met her.
Really?
Yeah, I went down, bought her a ring, and I went and asked her if she'd marry me.
And your mom was really upset.
Yeah, my mother wasn't happy.
How long was the engagement, though?
I met her in August, and I married her in May, the last week of May.
About a year.
About 9 months. Yeah, something like that.
Awesome.
I never actually figured it up. But I was away at. After I met her, I went down to the University of Arizona, went to college, and we would write letters back and forth every day. Subsequently, our grades suffered somewhat.
You got to have your priorities.
Yeah, you got to. Yeah.
All right.
But anyway, we've been happily married for, as I said earlier to someone, I'm a properly trained husband.
A properly trained husband.
Right.
How nice.
She's finally got me about where she'd like me to be.
There you go.
Give her another 50 years.
God, I hope it didn't.
You'll be the perfect man. Yeah,
I know.
I doubt that. I don't know if there's such a thing.
Yeah.
I don't believe there. I always wondered why women see us as the thing that hung the moon until you say I do, and then they begin to make changes so that you fit their program.
I know. We get fooled before that I do.
I don't know whether it was them or us.
Oh, that's true.
Maybe it was both.
Ken, you're a fascinating person. I've really enjoyed having you here today.
Yeah. I do have a question that might put you on the spot. It's certainly not rehearsed. So if you write really well, very engaging, he just wants to carry you forward, and you want to know what happens in the rest of this book, The Orphan Bride. What advice would you have for new writers if they're just starting out? Because I know you did one thing that most people, maybe some people do, but they did. What would you give as advice to new writers if they're trying to get started?
Pick up a pen and get a pad in front of you and sit down.
And get going, huh?
Put your thoughts on paper. It doesn't have to make sense either.
Yeah.
That's what editing is for, huh?
Well, no, but the way to get started, in my mind, and I will say this from my personal experience, I just began to put down thoughts until one of them clicked.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, out of that was born this book.
Yeah.
And then the next one was done the same way. Or take something from your life that impressed you or that you were dissatisfied with or somehow or other you're connected to and write about that. Write about something you know something about.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you'll get lost.
Okay, now, Ken, you grew up out here? And then how do you know about 1815 England?
I read a lot.
That's what I was getting at. Yeah. How many romances in this period do you think you read?
Well, I've got a wall in my garage that's about 12 feet high and about 40 feet long, and it's full of boxes of books.
Not just shelves of books, but boxes.
Boxes, and they're they're 2 or 3 high and stacked, and there's a lot of books in there.
So it's not quantifiable.
No, I don't know how many there are, and I've given them away, and some of them get damaged. I throw them away. I mean, we put them in yard sales. I mean, I don't know how many I've been through in a lifetime.
Wow. So
thousands.
Do you still read a lot?
Every day. I think if you're going to write, you must read.
I agree with that one. And and then you got to have time for both. So, but hey, aspiring writers, this is our moment in the show when we want to give you some encouragement. If you're listening to this and you go, man, I've always wanted to try to write, please give us drop us an email.
Yeah.
At writemeradio@gmail.com. That's WRITE, writemeradio@gmail.com. Give us a submission. Give us a little inquiry. We're very friendly. We'll for sure we'll email you back.
Right.
Sometimes we get stuff that's inappropriate, and Carrie says, "There's no way we can put that on the air." And then sometimes we're just inappropriate.
So it's a good thing I stopped reading.
If you tuned in late to today's broadcast and you want to hear the full excerpt of Kenneth Ray's Orphan Bride, go to
Right Time, he points at me, righttimeradio.my-free.website. And it'll be available sometime after 3 o'clock today. And if you're out tomorrow, we've got some really cool stuff going on over at Papa's Pizza from 2 till 4, and it is the book launch for Beyond the Veil. So please come out. We've got prizes, really good prizes. So
that's
come
at Papa's? That's my restaurant. It's Papa's 132 West Main Street. That's the corner of Santa Fe and Main in Florence at 2 p.m. Come out. It's free. We're going to have appetizers, giveaways. You've got a basket that's worth over $100.
I do.
Well over $100.
I do. And we've got books. We'll be signing them. Just really cool stuff.
Yep. So we want to see you there. Come out and hobnob with us, famous authors.
All right. That's it for Right Time Radio. Thanks for being with us this week. And thank you, sir, for being here. I loved it.
Yeah, thanks, Ken.